Welcome back to Radiant Change. I'm Kristen Lasanti, and I train transformational leaders like you. In our last episode, we drew a map of your ecosystem, otherwise known as your culture. And you saw how hidden paradigms at play deep within your ecosystem are actually driving your results. If that feels frustrating or overwhelming for you, that's natural. But also consider that this is good news. It means you can systematically change your culture to yield the results that you are after. This is the work I do with organizations all over the world, and while each of them are different, there is one core shift they all need to make. One core shift that unlocks the potential of a culture. Today, I want to offer you a simple way to think about the only culture change you really need. Now, we've already talked about how your results emerge from patterns in your system, perpetuated by structures that were designed according to these guiding paradigms. But it's also true that these results only serve to reinforce the paradigms that created them. And so we not only have a progression, but a cycle. The question is, which cycle are you in? For our purposes today, there are two cycles, reactive and creative. Let's look at how they work. In a reactive cycle, the paradigms are typically assumptions of scarcity. More is better. There's never enough. We need to win as much as possible. These assumptions naturally create structures of separation, of competition, within which the very sensible patterns are what we might call our survival programming. Our innate fight, flight, freeze, appease responses show up. And they show up as controlling or blaming or trying to please the people around us. And of course, we're doing all of this in order to stay safe. But these patterns don't yield sustainable results. What we get from the reactive cycle, which is fueled by fear, is resistance to change, an inability to innovate, and inevitable decline. The alternative is a creative cycle, which is fueled by a sense of flow. Instead of assumptions of scarcity, the creative cycle's core paradigm is a mindset of trust, fundamentally trusting that we have what we need to succeed, even if we don't yet know how we're going to do it. That mindset designs structures of interdependence, not competition, because we recognize that it's going to take all of us working together to achieve our vision. And the patterns that emerge from these structures are not reactive survival programming. They are intentional growth practices, challenging one another, coaching one another, co-creating together, the results of which are reliably sustainable change over time and meaningful progress toward your vision. Look back over your career at the cultures you've been a part of. You can probably identify pretty easily which ones were more reactive and which were more creative. You can also think back to the case studies of Microsoft and Boeing that we explored in the last video. Microsoft has shifted from reactive to creative over the past decade, while Boeing is seeing the catastrophic consequences of trading its creative culture for a reactive one nearly 30 years ago. This is why I say that at the core of any meaningful change is a culture shift from fear to flow. You might be thinking, wow, we are stuck in a reactive cycle on my team or in my organization. How do we break out of it? How do we shift into a creative cycle? That is exactly what our last 3 episodes are going to focus on. So pour yourself a cup of tea, grab a glass of water, settle in, and get ready to take some notes. Or if you're in a real hurry, you can reach out to me. The link to my website is below, and we can talk about what culture change might look like in your organization. In our next episode, we're going to talk about how this shift moves through your system and why it doesn't actually take decades. It can start to happen in days.